In this episode, we're going to do an update on the allotment and also how my 6-month experiment without eating vegetables turned out, as well as looking at the farmers' crisis, all of the protests that are happening across Europe. Will they happen in the UK? So I'm going to start with the farming because yesterday I did an interview with Sandy Adams, who is very well researched on how the UN operates and how their policies are being rolled out by governments all around the world and the impact that is having on our farmers and the EU farmers.
Their livelihood will be taken away from them if they don't comply. A man from the ministry has visited all the farms and have said, look, over the next 3 years, your subsidies incrementally are going to be cut unless you diversify and you stop farming meat, dairy, sheep. We've really got to get farmers to understand where this is going and that farming will die if we don't do something now.
The information that she gave was really quite startling on the future of our food supply. And if the UK farmers do decide to join in with the protests, as they have done in the whole of Europe virtually, then there needs to be a lot of public support in order for them to do it. So it's a really vital video to watch. And as I say, some very startling things are going on that is putting our farming industry in grave danger. So with the farming industry being so up in the air, it is vital now more than ever that we grow our own food. So for me, no messing about this year, no excuses of being busy. I'm going to get the allotment done on time. So November last year, I put a whole load of manure on and then tucked some of the beds in with, I've got some weed suppressant membrane, so I tucked them all in bed, all to sleep for the winter, and now things are getting going. I topped up the manure a bit the other week where some patches weren't as deep as the others, so every single bed has had a good old layer of manure on it. Now I am going to continue with my electroculture experiments. I know a lot of people are poo-pooing it, but then a lot of people did a form that seemed quite gimmicky. The one I'm following, I'm not actually using copper, I'm using more magnetic as well as the antennas because I could see a difference in yield last year. Now, because everything's been in place a whole year now, in theory the yield should be that much better. But I'm also going to make sure that I do the JDAM soil preparations on time and better. So this weekend I'm going to make a batch of JMS, the first one, and get that on the soil before I plant anything. So I advise everyone to get growing this year because it takes a minimum of 3 to 4 months to get crops of food. Do check out the Garden Like a Viking channel because he teaches vegetables so much better than I do and shows you step by step how to make all the JDAM solutions, etc. And I think he said he's going to simplify it this year, so even better, because I did definitely get the best results with the JDAM. It's a lot more work making all of the brews up and then spraying it on, but you know, if the shops are empty of food, then the work is obviously worthwhile. So there's a link in the description to the farming video that I did. Do make sure you watch it and do please share far and wide. It's very important information. And if the farmers in the UK do decide to take to the streets in their tractors, I know it's going to be inconvenient, but please give them all the support, because if our farming industry goes the way they are planning to make it go, then we are all going to be in trouble. So do please support our farmers. So let me give you a tour of what I've been doing at the allotment, and then at the end I'll tell you how I get on with my vegetable-free diet experiment. So I don't eat as much garlic as I used to, but I do still use it in the insecticide preparations, and I do eat some, but not much. So I've got some bulbs that I grew last year that are starting to sprout, so I thought it'd be a good idea to get them in now. For best results, you normally plant them sort of November time, but you can also plant them in the spring, and they're suitable. You get smaller ones, but it's still suitable for my needs, which is basically insecticides. I also topped up, I had got some extra manure and I topped up my giant vegetable planter that I've got in the garden
and covered them with straw, so that's had a good amount of nutrition. I managed to get a good 2 or 3 inches of manure in each of the planters, and it's been such a mild winter this year. My rocket is rocketing. It survived all winter long, and I've been eating that quite merrily. Got a tiny bit of lettuce survived. Strawberries are just about still alive. But yeah, I've done really well with rocket, so I'm really pleased at that. And having fresh lettuce at this time of year is also very nice.
So I cut out vegetables after I read about oxalates because I wanted to see if that would make a difference to my migraines. And some interesting things happened on what's sometimes referred to as the carnivore diet, or the ancestral diet was the one I was following, which has quite a high fat content and you're eating basically meat all day long. So how did I get on? The long and short of it is I only did it for 3 months in the end, not 6 months, purely because it just didn't suit me. I wasn't able to keep the weight on, no matter how much fat and meat I consume. And also, when you're doing this type of diet, because you're not having the carbohydrates, clue is in the name, hydrates, it's very difficult to get your electrolyte balance correct. And I tried it for 3 months and it just didn't normalise. And for me, that's a big sign things weren't right for me. Now, that's not to say this diet doesn't suit other people. There were a lot of benefits, but for me, the negatives outweighed the benefits, so there was no point in continuing it for 6 months as I'd originally planned. Now, I know it can take 6 months to fully adjust, but as I say, the benefits just weren't there to do it. Plus, I missed my vegetables. So the pluses were not being hungry all day long. That was a real bonus and a real eye-opener. And also, very quickly, I put on a lot more muscle. When I did the slightest physical thing, more muscle went on. Another thing that happened really quickly was I'd noticed in very sunny conditions that my teeth were looking a little bit translucent and see-through, and I just thought, oh well, that's part and parcel of aging. Within a week of eating nothing but meat, the depth of the whiteness returned, which was really quite surprising and not something I had anticipated. What was also nice is my teeth felt clean all day long. There wasn't that feeling like, oh dear, I really need to go and clean my teeth, that build-up that you get when you eat carbohydrates. So that was another bonus. I mean, I did clean my teeth at night, but there really didn't feel like there was any need. But as I say, the main drawbacks for me was I just lost far too much weight. I couldn't, no matter how much fat I consumed, and I really did try lots of different methods of having a lot of fat, but it was just too much for my system. The whole reason for the experiment was to see if it helped my migraines, and it didn't. They actually got worse. Now, I did wonder whether that was my body dumping oxalates, but in the end, so I went to see a practitioner who I've known a long time, who's got a bioresonance machine, and she was able to confirm I didn't have a problem with oxalates, and the headaches were, she found a bacteria in my brain. I forget which one it was now, but anyway, she gave me some treatments. Bioresonance is a frequency device, and they've improved by about 50%. So I'm going to go back and have another appointment with her, and just to clear up any remaining. But actually, they probably improved 60%, 60 to 70%. So all that diet messing around for no reason at all. I should have just gone to her in the first place. But anyway, I do like my experiments. Having done vegan and now carnivore, I've experienced both ends of the spectrum. Vegan didn't suit me at all. I nearly killed myself on that diet. It wrecked my gut. 3 months, and I was following a very prescribed way of doing it, following Dr. Greger's work, but that was just, yeah, it took me 18 months to recover from 3 months of being vegan, and 3 months of doing the carnivore diet. Well, it's probably taken me a month to gain the weight back. So what I have learnt from the diet, though, is to only eat, and now this probably sounds very silly now I'm saying it out loud, but only eat things I actually like. So all of that guilt of, oh, I suppose I ought to eat some spinach, even though I really don't like spinach and chard and things. Now I just don't. I have no guilt. If I have a day where I haven't had any greenery, yes, I miss it, but there's not that, oh, I'm going to be ill, I haven't had my greens. So there's none of that. So I'm only eating and growing the vegetables that I enjoy, which is really obvious thing to do. I'm not trying to get all of these micronutrients in with every last greenery. I'm still eating a lot more meat than I was, and yeah, I feel good on that, but I do enjoy my potatoes. So I'm glad to have them back, and I don't care if they've got oxalates in. I enjoy them. So that's the summary, really. But with everything that's happening with farming, I think having a diverse diet is actually going to be beneficial. So I'm happy that I did the experiment. I certainly learnt a lot, but I'm much happier eating what I want when I want, rather than being very strict with a very specific restrictive way of eating. So yeah, all's good. So until next time, take care.